Welcome to day 3 of Knowing Bielsa, a program organized by the Bielsa State New Media. I am Tonya Paul Avon, your host. Today with me is the Honorable Commissioner for Labor and Productivity, Honorable Collins Kokodia. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir, we know that your ministry has been doing a lot of activities recently, but I want to ask, what has been your role in the ongoing civil service reforms?
Well, first, my ministry is called the Ministry of Labor, Employment and Productivity. It's a 3-in-1 ministry that first has to do with ensuring that there's cordial, harmonious working relationship between the restoration government and the organized labor group. And also, the ministry is supposed to help generate employment, be it from the private sector and within governments. And by government, I mean both at the state level and at the federal level.
Yes.
Then lastly, my ministry is also to do training. The bit of productivity is for me to do training. Training within the public service class and outside the public service class. So you can see that it's quite a broad ministry that has 3 very key components of government functioning properly. So the question asks, well, the civil service reform became very necessary, taking into consideration some of the things we saw when we came into government. We came into government and saw a situation where people were drawing salaries from so many pay points. We came into government and saw that the civil service was overbloated. We came into government, we saw people drawing salaries and not going to work. We came into government, we saw people either within the teaching class and the mainstream of the civil service teaching and working without genuine certificates.
Very true.
We came into government, we saw where people are given the right to go to court on a daily basis or on a weekly basis to swear to an oath of their birth certificates. We saw a situation where people that are physically not competent are not fit to run the different positions they were employed to run, still in government. We saw a situation where people inherit jobs of their dead relatives. And in the civil service, there's nothing like inheritance, but we saw that in Bielsa. We saw a situation where people can buy grade level and step levels. We saw so many things in government. And it was very necessary that the civil service needed to be reformed. So His Excellency, the Governor of Bielsa State, Governor HS60, felt that the best thing to do was to have it reformed. First, we went out to do on-the-spot verification of government workers. And that gave birth to all the other verification exercises that we did. The reason being that on-the-spot assessment gave us a different figure. The pay point assessment gave us a different figure.
Okay.
The pay point assessment is usually higher than on the spot assessment. So first we were able to knock off those we call the ghost workers. And the ghost workers are people that got into employment even when they are not up to the age to be employed. We saw a situation where people have names of people that are not living and names of people that are even living but not up to the age of employment our payroll.
What are you people doing now? What are you putting in place to stop all this?
No, we've done so much. The first set of persons we were able to knock off were those drawing salaries from 2-3 different pay points. We were able to knock that off.
Okay.
We are also able to knock off those people that were underage, because when they came for the physical verification, they couldn't come. Even though they had their employment letters with them, they couldn't come because it was on the spot assessment. We were able also to knock out few, even though we are still doing more. of those that came into service with fake certificates.
Honorable Commissioner, sir, I understand that your ministry has actually carried out a few trainings. How far has this training gone? What are the testimonies? Has there been any change? Has there been any improvements based on these trainings you've conducted?
We have done a lot of training. I started my training exercise while I was Commissioner for Youth Development. Remember, I was Commissioner for Youth Development for over 4 years.
Sure.
And when I came into government as a Honorable Commissioner for Youth Development, I felt the first thing to do was to have what I call positive reorientation. It's a 3-in-1 concept: positive reorientation, training, and engagement. And we were able to use that to change the mindset of our youths then. And while we were doing that, we felt that just having their mindset change wouldn't really help the situation. So we also started training. And we did a lot of training. First, training with ITF, 1,000 of them training with ITF, Smedan and Bank of Industries. That was in 2013-2014. Then after then, we also did another round of training with ITF 500, got training, different vocational skills, ranging from poultry farming, snarery, fish farming, aluminum fabrication, garment making, tiling, and the POP. Plumbing too, we did all those ones. Then after that, we came up with a concept called Catch Them Young Through Skills Acquisition. We felt that the leisure period given to our young youths, we felt it was too much for them. So we needed to create a platform where they could be engaged positively. So we did that in a school called Federal Government Science Technical College in Togo, Sabama Local Government. It was a pilot scheme. And we were able to train 627 of our young youths from SS3 to SS1. And we trained them this time in soap making, GSM repairs, decoration and interior planning. We did that, and we were able to graduate 627 of them. After that, we went round to do another round of training, this time solely done by the Restoration Government, led by His Excellency, the Governor of the state. And this time, we trained them in catering, and catering subdivided into dishes, drinks, and baking. Then we also trained in GSM repairs and trained in interior decoration and event planning. This time we used our own institute, the International Institute of Tourism and Hospitality at the Lebanon, and we were able to train 150 of them. The initial number intake we got was about 300 or something, but immediately they knew that startup packs were not going to be given. Our people with the issue of startup pack. Some of them started leaving the program, but I can tell you clearly, we were able to graduate 150 of them. The 150 of them have two things that they did benefit from that program.
Okay.
The first is the training, the skills they were able to acquire. Then secondly, the certificate issued them can start them from level 4 and terminate them in level 12, which I think was a good one for them if they decide to venture into any government implementing. So we were able to do that. Then after that again too, we did another round of training. This time we did with ITF where we trained an extra 500. Then after that we trained extra 300. The 300 we did their graduation not too long ago, about 3-4 months ago. We did their graduation. But the last 300, let me conclude. The last 300 we trained. Theirs became better because they were given startup pack. The first 1,000 got startup pack, and the last 300 got startup pack. And this time we trained them in fashion designing, which virtually all those that got trained in fashion designing got sewing machine. Then we also trained in welding and fabrication. They also got welding machine and all this stuff. Then we also trained in plumbing and pipe fitting. They also got items.
I was going to come to that because I was going to ask you, after you train these youth, these people, what's next? I mean, a lot of people have gone for several trainings and then they come out and then they don't have anything to do. So my question was, after training, what next?
Yes.
A lot of people have been trained.
You
just keep training.
If you listen to me carefully, I said positive reorientation, training and engagement. Engagement has dual measure to it. First, self-engagement. Then secondly, government creating platform for them to be employed by the government or to be employed by companies that do operate within Bayelsa. And also to create platform for those that may want to seek employment at the federal level to also have that done for them. So what we try as much as possible to do, now that we are training and we are giving startup pack, we are now monitoring. Because the attitude of our people before this time was in the sorry state where you give startup pack and the next time you turn around to find out what is happening, they are selling them off. to our brothers from the east. Even if you compare what they are selling those items, you'll be shocked, compared with what government must have invested in purchasing those items. So we use time to really talk to them, and that's why SMEDAM is always part of all the training we'll be doing. SMEDAM's job is to train them on entrepreneurship, on how they can start up small businesses of their own and be able to groom it. So we're able to do that. Then the last people, 300 we trained, got startup pack, and we are monitoring them now. But I can tell you that the level, the rate of people selling their startup pack is lower now than when we came on board in 2012. It means that so much progress has been made as regards the mindset of our people. We are also thinking of training and retraining our civil servants, because the world has gone digital, and these days people do what we call e-governance. And in most states, they are already, e-governance compliant. But I think Bayelsa, we are gradually moving into it, even though the process has started. And that led me not just me, the team from the ministry, to do our second advocacy movement to Abuja, where we're able to clearly meet with Digital Bridge Institute in Abuja, who are willing and offering to come to Bayelsa to train those in the civil service class and also young Bayelsas that are out from the university. Because first, you need to know available vacancies for you to be able to apply. And now most applications are done online. So we did that. We are about doing that with them. Then not too long ago, we did training with Google African Skills. Yes. Not too long ago. That training was to take care of 2,000 of our populace. First, 1,500 by those in the public service, and 500 young Bayelsas. But because of people wanting stipend to be given to them, and that didn't come, we were able to graduate about 402 of them, and it was 90% funded by Global African Skills. Then also, I'll tell you that when I came on board in 2013 as the Honorable Commissioner for Youth Development, I did my first advocacy mission that took me to meeting virtually most of the foreign missions in Abuja, the United States Embassy, the Embassy of Taiwan, Japan, that of Namibia, Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, and some few others. And that gave room for us to be able to know that they have floating funds tied to these missions that they need to use in training, the countries where they are. And we felt that it was necessary for Bayelsa State Government to also key into it. Yeah. We also met with NIDO. NIDO is also key into such type of training, and UNITA is also key into it. We were able to meet with them, and we agreed on terms. The program we wanted to do with UNITA, if not for the tight schedule of their African regional coordinator, Dr. Larry Brooms, was dual in nature. First, to train our young Bayelsans that are through with the NYSC scheme. They give them training in professional areas that has to do with oil exploration and what have you. Then secondly, to send them as volunteers to United Nations missions abroad. And when they go out and they are exposed, when they come back, their mindset will surely change. But for those that we intend training with UNITA, they will be trained on specific demands. Invariably, that means that before you send them out for such training, there is an available vacancy for them. Okay. I don't know if that is clear. Yes. There's an available vacancy for them. Already? So when they go and they are done with the training, they come back, they are sent to where they need to be engaged. So we have that running with UNITA. But bureaucracy and government. So we are just waiting to have that, tied up between the two teams. But we've had about 3 sections with UNITA, and that seems to be doing well for us. So, yeah.
I'm going to ask you, all these collaborations you're doing both locally and internationally, what benefits is it going to be to our youth? Because a lot of people want to know, is it just to make miles or spend our money, travel, you go here, you go there, you're looking for collaborations? I mean, we've seen a lot of these things, but they still don't work. So what is the guarantee that these collaborations are going to work, and then they're going to bring out so much difference and make a difference in this administration?
Well, I don't know the angle this question is coming from, but I think if you are resident in Bayelsa and you know what my ministry has been doing, right from Ministry of Youth Development recruitment to my current ministry, you'll discover that for everything that we've been doing, it's been on the social media. And if you go to the social media, you see it from day one till date. All my advocacy movement within Nigeria, outside Nigeria, you see it there. And all the benefits so far gotten, you see it there. The last advocacy mission that I made with a team from the ministry gave birth to the current 330 Bayelsas we are training with ITF. Let me tell you this. ITF is currently training 300 in each of the states of the federation.
Okay.
But only 4 states are benefiting from the 30 they are training for the women. Bayelsa, I will tell you clearly, is the only non-APC state that is benefiting from it. And that's because of the advocacy mission to Abuja. And Bayelsa state government became the first government to have sent a delegation to ITF zonal office in Abuja to thank them for all the collaborations we have enjoyed with them. And because of that advocacy mission, ITF felt that Bayelsa should benefit from this program. And hence, out of the federation, the 36 states of the federation, only 4 states are currently benefiting that. And Bayelsa state, that is not an APC state, is one of them. Then also, there's a program already packaged and set for, flag off. That is for the physically challenged. And ITF will be doing that program in only 6 states of the federation. Bayelsa State is also benefiting from that. It's because of the thank you mission we took to ITF in Abuja. And that seems to be giving us the result that we are
That brings me to my next question, sir. Recently, there was a comment on the social media about Hyundai company vacating Bayelsa. Can you throw more light on that?
Yes, I heard of it, and I quickly, made some few calls and also spoke with the coordinator, who told me clearly that Hyundai is not leaving Bayelsa. They got the proposal to have some few persons trained outside the shores of Bayelsa, and they are doing that. But Hyundai is still in Bayelsa, and all training done by Hyundai will still be done there. I have that in good authority.
Okay, that's very nice.
Yes.
How can the youths of Bayelsa reach you? Are you a very accessible person? Or
I'm not the commissioner for youth anymore. Note that.
What I mean is, your office still has a whole lot of
to
things
do with young
the
people.
youth.
With young people.
And when you talk about employment, I mean, already we're trying and fighting all over the federation for the elderly to leave, for the youth to come in.
Yeah.
So in your bid for employment, are you saying that everyone can access you as a commissioner for labor and productivity? Can our young ones come to you? How do they reach you? Are you on Facebook? Are you on Twitter? What platforms do we reach you?
I'm on all the social media
Is
platforms.
your phone number accessible?
My phone number is accessible.
Okay.
My ministry's Facebook page is one of the most active outside the Ministry of Information, which I think is their responsibility to inform and re-inform us. But outside Ministry of Information, if you go through the social media, you discover that my ministry's Facebook is one of the most active, and I personally respond to questions asked.
Okay.
Then outside that, my office is also very open, in as much as it's to make inquiries and also to give advice where and when necessary. Let me tell you what we did recently. We came into a record that shows clearly that Bayelsa State has the least number of our citizens at the federal civil service. Outside Taraba State. Taraba State is least, followed by Bayelsa State. I told His Excellency the Governor that there was the need for us to correct that. He gave his express approval for me to embark on that mission. And that took me to first federal civil service in Abuja. I met with the the head of service was not in the country then, of the federation. So I met with the permanent secretary in the head of services office. I met with the chairman, the executive chairman of the Federal Character Commission. I met with the permanent secretary, Ministry of Interior. I needed to do that because something new is happening in this country, and I think we must emphasize that. Before this time, each state has an equal number of recruitment into the customs, into the immigration, into the road safety, into the prisons. The ones that are directly under the Ministry of Interior. And also in the police force. The police force is not directly under the Interior. I'm not sure police force is directly under. But they also play, an oversight function on jobs with the police. So we discovered that rather than each state having equal number of representation in terms of recruitment, they brought it down local governments. It brought it down to local government. And you know that in the entire federation, Bayelsa has the least number of local government. Invariably, it means that if you have to employ, let's assume, you have to employ 2 to each local government, Bayelsa will end up having just 16 persons employed, be it in the prisons, in the immigrations, in the fire service, and in the customs. Then Kano State, that has 44 local government, will have how many? 88. Am I right? 88. So where is the justice? Where is the fairness? Where is the equity? So we took that strong message given to me by His Excellency to deliver to the Minister for Interior. And that strong worded message I delivered to him. Unfortunately for me, he was caught up in a management meeting with his team. He was meeting with the prisons, he was meeting with the customs, and he was meeting with the road safety and the immigrations. But he detailed the permanent secretary to go into that section with me, and I gave him the strong worded message for His Excellency the Governor of Bayelsa State that they are being unfair to us. And even though the Federal Character Commission has already, they have it in their records, that outside Taraba State, Bayelsa State is least in terms of engagement at the federal level. So we felt that using that formula to recruit persons is still injustice to Bayelsa State. But let me tell you the good news. After that advocacy mission, the executive chairman of the Federal Character Commission asked me graciously to put together some few names for them to have in their bank. So we have done that. We did some shortlisting, asked people to bring their CVs and detailed CVs and attachment to it and all this stuff. We were able to send 318 to them. That is not all. That's for the first phase. We've sent 318 to them. And on Friday last week, I got a call from the secretary of the Federal Character Commission asking me to bring 3 names for immediate employment at the federal level. And I told him that we already have 318 with them. Let them choose from the 318. And he asked me, no choice of candidate. I said, no, sir. All the 318 of them that are there are Bayelsans. And they are all qualified to benefit from the 3 available slots that we have currently. So by today, tomorrow, I think I'll place a call to confirm which name he has been able to shortlist for that recruitment. Pressure will still come from here for us to ensure that that injustice done to Bayelsa is corrected. So be rest assured that the Ministry of Labour, Employment and Development is in a safe hand by the grace of God. And the team that I have working with me, wonderful team. My PAMSEC, Dr. Omietimi Kojo, very hardworking, and other members of my team. They are all doing very well to support me to succeed.
Fantastic. Honorable Commissioner, you've spoken so well. And your plans, if carried out, are very fantastic. And I'm sure that our youth and the Bayelsans will go along with it. But I want to ask you something. All these efforts you've made, what other efforts are you people putting, your ministry putting to take this employment to the rural areas?
Okay, let me tell you what we intend doing. Okay, before I answer that, let me tell you what we did recently. We heard that Julius Becker has been working in Agua for some time now. After they left the state, they've been working to complete the job they are doing. But we also noticed that we got distress calls from Bayelsans that most of the people they've engaged are not Bayelsans. Mm-hmm. So about Thursday, Friday last week, I wrote a letter to them telling the management team to have an interactive session with me. And the site engineer came. So as I talk to you, I have the list of employees in their company, stating clearly the number of Bayelsans they've engaged after they came back to site, and the non-Bayelsans. And some of the jobs that they have ongoing currently are like finishing, what they have started. And it requires more of professional touch to it. So for those ones, if you do not have qualified persons from your state to fill into that vacancy, it becomes difficult to have them recruited. That's that. And you asked one question. What was the question you asked? Sorry.
Taking it to the rural area.
Yes, taking such training to the rural area. What we try as much as possible to do, which we have started talking with ITF, and we are trying to bring the 8 local government councils to join hands with us to have some of this training taken to the local government headquarters. And I think the discussion is on with the Honorable Commissioner for Local Government Administration, which will also allow the local government councils to also contribute a little quota to that. Because if you take the training to the local government councils, Invariably, it means that you must have a training center for them. You must have where to accommodate them because they are all not from the same. They are not from the local government headquarters. They will come from their individual communities. So you must also have somewhere to keep them. You must also provide feeding for them, provide accommodation for them, and make them to be comfortable so that whatever training you give to them, they will be able to comprehend properly. So we are working that out. Then also, most of the training we do at the state level, we still ensure that people from the locality also come to benefit from it. We ask them if they have somewhere they can stay in Yenagoa, we will be willing to also make them be part of it. The current 330 we are doing, 30 purely for the women. And that one is fashion designing. And I can tell you clearly that about 50% of people that benefited from that program came from the locality. Different localities. We have that. Some of them didn't even have telephone number. We had to call community chairman to call them to say that they have been shortlisted, let them come and take.
I was going to ask you, how do you carry out your selections? How do you get them to come?
Well, we put it in our Facebook page, the ministry's Facebook page. Because of course the numbers are limited. The numbers are limited, so if there's a way you have it announced, you have more persons that you can accommodate. And you start hearing people grumbling, they have selected, they have done this. So most of the times put it in the Facebook page, our Facebook page. And at times we also get the local government chairman to also be involved. We get the constituency representative, the House of Assembly members to also be involved. Because of course, the local government chairman, they are from the locality too. The House of Assembly members also come from different localities. And we also allow free will people to also come and be part of it. Those without recommendation from anybody, they also come to benefit from it.
So now we go to the big one and the most recent one.
Yes.
1,000 civil service employment process. You want to talk about that?
Yes, why not? It's for me, it's good news for me. For me, it's breakthrough for me. For me, it's a thing that we have never heard before this time. There's been embargo on employment for over 16 years, if I'm not being economical with the truth. Since Alamesia, there's been embargo since DSP Alamesia since 2002. Yes. Embargo has been placed on employment. But it will shock you that even when embargo was placed, people saw themselves into the civil service. And nobody is worried about that. True. That there's embargo. How come we are getting people get engaged with fresh letters signed by who and how? See, and I'm sure that this is the very first time any city governor will declare vacancy and ready to recruit 1,000 at a go. And I think the governor needs high commendation on this. For having the liver, having the mind, knowing fully well the financial implication of that to get in brand new young biassans into the civil service class. Well, the process is on. Just on Monday, the website for the Civil Service Commission has just been launched. All those that did apply, they should visit the site and look at if they've been shortlisted for that recruitment or not. It will shock you to know that while we are thinking of engaging just 1,000, we got total application of over 23,000. Total application of over 23,000, just 1,000 available vacancies. So you can imagine the means of recruitment and weeding off those we need and those we do not need. And for every biassans, which I think they are all qualified to benefit from that recruitment thing, but priority is also given to what you study, your grades, and your local government. Because one local government cannot say, after writing the aptitude test, if everybody decides to pass from one local government, you can't engage the entire 1,000 from one local government. So the thing will be broken down into local government. So if you, for instance, somebody from Koga we have 10 persons from Koga that scored like 80% of the total scores, and somebody from Yenagoa local government, for instance, please, got 50%, and that's the highest score from the person from the Yenagoa group. 50% comes in. The man from Koga, 80% comes in. So that is fairness for us. Okay. Well, if you decide to say, okay, Koga got 80%, and before you know, more than 500 from Koga got 80%, it means that the thing is not being done fairly. So we must also guide against that. That's what the Civil Service Commission is doing. My ministry is not directly involved in the recruitment exercise, but as Ministry for Labour, Employment and Productivity, we are overseeing what the Civil Service Commission is doing with one eye.
Another question, this is the last one. This employment, is it cut across all the civil service areas? What I mean is it also included in teaching, or just being in an office as a civil servant as usual, or it's cut across all
Before the recruitment team was declared by His Excellency, the HOS had an in-house discussion with the governor to know areas where we already lack the manpower to take care of. So that's why some persons may have a 2-1 in their discipline, but if their area of specialization is not needed now, they may not be called for the next round of interview. And also note that the governor, when he came on board in 2012, in 2014, I think he declared he recruited over 350 teachers, science-based teachers. He did that. And now that we are almost done with the reform, we are now going back to the drawing board to look at areas where we still need manpower, especially in the teaching aspect. I went around Bayelsa West in course of one of such verification exercises. And I'll tell you clearly that what I saw while I was there will shock you. You go to some schools, you have more non-academic staff than the academic staff. You have people that call themselves clerical officers. At times you see between 15 to 20 of them in a school. And you see like 8 teachers in that same school. And you begin to ask, who plays more role in terms of, impacting on our young, wards and kids and what have you? It's called that those in the teaching class do have that to do. While those in the non-teaching, they have their also role to play, but not as vital as those in the academic field. So that is also one area where we are trying to also balance. And let me tell you what the governor is trying to do, in as much as it's on record that we are not ready to sack. Even though the way it is currently, we have a lot of people that are not productive. And I like to establish this. They are legally employed, they are legally engaged, but their area of assignments, they are not useful there. Where they've been deployed to, they are not useful there. So we are trying to mop them out from where they are not being productive to where they can be productive. Some of them do have teaching qualification. But it will shock you to know that some of them are in the Ministry of Trade and Investment. Some of them are in Radio Bayelsa. Some of them are in NDTV. Some of them are even in agriculture and play no role in agriculture. So we are trying to mop those people that do have teaching qualification from where they are not being productive and be sent to 3 institutions that we have already chosen. The African University in Tororua, the Niger Delta University in Amasoma, and the Isaac Atakaburu College of Education in Sagbama. They will be sent there for a refresher training program for 3 months. And after that, they will now be brought out from where they are doing nothing and be reassigned to some of our schools to impact positively on our kids. So that is also one area where I think the government also is doing well, and I give the governor a thumb up for that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, there's also something that I think our listening audience need to also know.
Your final words.
My final. Oh, God have mercy. My final. Okay, I think we have a collaboration that we entered into with a German-based non-governmental organization called the African Tide Union. They are going to the president is currently in Nigeria, but she is being in Bayelsa 2 days now. She went back to Port Harcourt to tidy up for a few days. We will be training 415 of our young Bayelsas in 2 broad areas. First, we'll be training in solar energy. The solar energy training is 100% funded by the European Union to the tune of 900,000 euro. Then the smart houses has a collaboration between Bayelsa State Government and the African Tide Union. The African Tide Union will be bringing 68% of the total cost of that funding. The total cost of that funding is 1,062 million euro. 1.062 million euro. They will be bringing 68% of that cost of funding. Bayelsa State Government will be bringing 32% of that cost of funding. The program is a rich program for 15 months. And we are going to have in the shores of Bayelsa 11 Germans. 11 Germans will be in the shores of Bayelsa for that duration to impact on our young Bayelsas. First on solar energy, secondly on smart houses. Currently, we have started giving out funds for the smart houses because those ones are available now. There we will be training about 215. There's what we call the multiplier effect of it. We are training 15 as train the trainers. 15 must have background in architecture, building, draftsmen, and anything that has to do with structure. Those ones will be in the first 15. Then the other will now be 20. You could be a graduate, non-graduate. Like you have a BA in English, history. For us, if you have the interest to be trained in such area, we are ready to have them trained for that period of 15 months. So, and we are flagging up that program on the 6th of September. By 25th of August, all the Germans will be in the country. Currently, we are trying to work out their documentation. We are doing their documentation. Their documentation has to do with their work permit here in Nigeria for that long duration. Then also, my movement to Germany last year, December, gave birth to a program that I've just influenced to African University Torora. I entered into an agreement because the African Trade Union is like a body we have entered into. We have an MOU with to source for things that will better Bayelsa. So we ran into another program that will make the German government send down some teachers, some lecturers to come and teach the German language free of charge. Free of charge.
I was going to ask you that.
Free of charge. No financial cost is attached to that. The German government is willing to be paying them while they are here teaching the German language. And the first tranche will start after resumption. But I'm sure they are true with the first person that is coming. Andrea Weber will be coming. She's the first person that will come to start that program. After her, about 2 more Germans will come to join her to impact, on our youths as regards those in Torora, African University. We also intend extending that gesture to Niger Delta University, where we still have lecturers from Germany to come and teach German language there, free of charge, no financial attachment to it. The only thing we need to do as a state is to ensure that they are safe. They are safe. The mindset of our young men. We are praying that God will blind their eyes so that they won't see them when they go to lecture, when they leave lecture to go back home. For those that are coming too, we are also making adequate security arrangements to take them from where they will be residing to where they will be impacting knowledge on our people. Already, the African Trade Union, they've rented an edifice for that training, and they have paid 2 years upfront already. To tell you that it's a serious program, and each year costs them about 6.5 million. For the 2 years, they are talking about 13 million. That's part of the agreement we entered into them. We entered with them. So, to a large extent, I can tell you that we have so much to benefit from such collaboration. Government itself alone cannot run its activities and do all the training and engagement that we need to do. So, you must call people to come and partner, people to come and collaborate, people to come and support government to also do that. I'll also be meeting with the banks very soon. I've written that letter out, and I'll be meeting with the management of all the banks. They need to show to us how many Bayelsans they have engaged in each of their banks. The law states that for the junior staff, they must be Bayelsans. But we have a situation where most of the banks are now operating with what they call contract staff. That battle is a battle that I have waiting to fight with them. We are going to do it diplomatically. We are going to do it following due process. We are not going to harass them to do what they are not supposed to do. But we are also going to maintain our stand to say that what is due Bayelsa, they give to Bayelsa. That is the position of the ministry. And I'm sure, I'm happy, I'm glad that I have the endorsement of Mr. Governor to go on and have that achieved for us.
Thank you so much, Honorable Commissioner. You have said a lot and you have educated us a lot. Thank you so much. We would really love to have you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. That has been the Honorable Commissioner for Labor and Productivity.
Employment and productivity. Don't leave out employment.
Well, you already heard him say that. Thank you so much for watching the show, and we will be continuing this program by 11 a.m. with the Honorable Commissioner for Information. So don't go anywhere. See you again at 11. Thank you.